You are now entering the MuseCast.
Boom, we are recording. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the MuseCast. This is episode 81. We have made it 81 episodes. I just now, as I look down at my phone, see a text from Dick that he has recognized what time it is, and he's going to pop in here any minute. I'm sure about it. But we're going to go ahead and get started because it's been a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, this is JC Scars. He was with Within Chaos. Dick is actually who knows JC. I'm just now getting to meet him. And we've been waiting for Dick to show up. Yeah. And this guy seems cool as shit. He's got a ton of crazy stories going on. And first of all, like right out of the gate, where are you right now, if you don't mind me asking? It's kind of interesting what you're doing there.
Okay, so I'm actually at the music venue that I'm the general manager, talent buyer, and the front of house main engineer down in Lewisville, Texas, which is a suburb of DFW. I'm kind of stuck in the middle, a little north of Dallas and Fort Worth, kind of in the middle.
Okay. And how did you end up in this situation where you're at?
So, I was trying to not go overly with it. I left Within Chaos in 2010, and there was some other bands out there that I was jamming with. We were on the verge of getting on the same record label with Head PE and Candlebox, and the band kind of imploded. The girlfriends and wives wouldn't let them do the record deal, so I left East Texas after the VP sent over the contracts and they wouldn't sign them, and I joined some tribute bands. Well, in the process of doing the cover band tribute band thing, I ended up at this club, and the owners and me became best friends, the old owners. There's new ownership right now over the last year and a half, but we became best friends, and I started hosting open mics, and I'd already kind of had some stage managing experience. Like I've done stage managing at a local club in East Texas. We had like Saliva, Snoop Dogg, In This Moment, Cabo, Drowning Pool, Hell Yeah, all those things.
Wow.
I've opened up. So I had that experience down there. So when I came here to be in the tribute band and cover band world, I kind of walked away from the original for quite a while. I became best friends with him, and I just worked my way up from open mic nights to where then he was letting me play with the lights, and I was already stage managing, so I knew how to run the monitor setup, but I never was never a front of house guy. And just sitting around all these good teachers and people he had coming through, teaching me on the X32 and all the JBL and Crown amps, and just teaching me stuff. I just kind of over the last 7 years, outside of still playing all the time in the 5 bands, I just worked my way from open mic stage managing to be the talent buyer, the general manager, and the front of house engineer.
Wow, man, that's great.
And I didn't even want to. I didn't even want to, Ash. I didn't even want
natural evolution.
I did not want to run sound. I did not want to book bands. I didn't want any of that shit. It's just because of being on the labels and having management and booking agencies and just other friends that were promoters that were in it. It was just kind of like I learned how to do it. And then whenever it was in need, they're like, hey, he knows how to do it. And they just kind of shoved my butt right in there. And I've been here ever since.
Dude, well, that's a thing when people find themselves in a pinch and there's somebody that actually has the skill set that can pull it off. And then you step in and then you do pull it off. And on top of that, man, especially in music, it's not to find people that are competent that you can count on. They can be few and far between. I'm not, everyone, there's tons of beautiful, amazing people, artists, amazingness, but when it comes to business stuff, when you're counting on somebody to show up or run something on time or keep things in check, it can be challenging to find somebody that you can count on. And if they kind of, gradually build that relationship with you, it kind of just, they'll keep putting you in the seat. If you're willing, they'll keep sliding you up to those seats because they need people that they can depend on that actually know what they're talking about, know what they're doing with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was real fortunate too. When I was out doing the national thing, coming from Austin, Texas, where I'm really from, growing up on 6th Street and all the South by Southwest stuff, I was watching like the famous of the famous, that was my backyard.
Right.
People were coming down for 6th Street for the movie
Yeah.
festival and that. So
That's so fortunate. I'm in Tallahassee my whole life. I didn't grow up around, I don't have access to that way. I mean, that is such an amazing thing that you had going on there.
it was good to be a teenager, this little rough and tough skater, rock, rap, country chameleon that I was when I was trying to find out who I was. And I basically once a year, South by Southwest was there. And
Yeah.
JC.
Oh, no. Oh, Dick.
So sorry I'm late, guys. Dude, it's been forever.
Your audio's doing that buzzy thingy thing.
Oh, okay. Give me a minute. Let me back out.
Get out of here.
Continue what you were saying, Jay. I'll be back.
He's got to exit and re-enter. Sometimes his sound stuff does that.
So, in my backyard, who's who, what, you never know who was going to play at South by Southwest. And so, I was that young teenage kid that was broke and poor, but, regardless of the hellion and little shit I was, my gifts of singing and performing was intact. And so I was like this little sponge, like with my eyes and ears glued to the window when I wasn't old enough to get in the club until I was playing. Like I was old enough to go play it, but I couldn't go to the shows and watch the bands.
Totally.
So I just was around it all the time, and I started soaking that all up, and it just never stopped, regardless of all the crazy bullshit in my life, with all my addictions and craziness growing up. I was very fortunate that I've always been around I was put in a situation where there was somebody that was worth sponging off of to absorb the knowledge. And it took me a long time to really get where I'm at, because with me getting sober and stuff, it was like, it took a long time for me to take all that knowledge and put it into one place where it would actually happen. So I kind of was like, for a long time, even though I had the record deal and touring and stuff, I was still kind of only operating half-ass. And then when I changed me, all those things that I learned, they just all kind of started happening. And I found myself in spots that I didn't plan on or even asked to be in, because I guess, like you were saying, to have that opportunity to be surrounded by that,
Yeah. Did you feel that you acknowledged right when you were around people that you could kind of build that knowledge base off of, how valuable that was? Or did that evolve too, that you started to take note of how to pay attention and take advantage of?
It's weird because my mom, told me before I could really talk very well that I was already singing to the radio as a little kid. And so for me, she was like, you weren't even having like full sentences, but you could sing Michael Jackson or Duran Duran or Journey.
No way.
Yeah, she just said I was like it. So for me, anytime that there was something that had somebody was plugging a speaker in, or they were buying a Sears Flying V for me, or they were asking me to sing in choir, when somebody older than me that I kind of saw as an authority figure, not English class, not math class. Yeah. I was terrible. I terrorized those poor bastards. But when it came to the people that was around choir and band and music and, my parents being into music and, I was always around it. For some reason, I always just kind of paid attention. Like, it was like when they talked, everybody else, I didn't hear them anymore. But I will tell you that before I acted on it fully, it took me almost till a year and a half ago when I got sober for it all to click. But there were moments and flashes of goodness and greatness through the journey, but they were only bits and pieces because, there was always other things that were altering the flow of all of that knowledge and all of those things that people instilled in me that I just couldn't help but be drawn to them, and to kind of put a final kind of little connotation or note on the end of it, really at my age now, it all really is kind of clicking. So it took a very long time, but it was because of the other things that I had going on in my life that was blocking it from from really letting the gift shine and all that knowledge that all these great people gave to me, you know?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Well, I'm so happy for you that you've arrived at this place and having this like second run. We're going to talk about some of the others. You know, I want to explore some of the other things you mentioned before the podcast about exciting other things that are happening for you. But let me let you guys say hey for a second.
Hey, check 1 2. Is that better?
Sounds great. It sounds killer.
Hey,
Sounds good to me.
JC, man, good to see you, dude. Good to talk.
You
Sorry,
too, man.
Sorry I'm late again. It's been a long time. Obviously I missed the intro, but so we're talking about your journey. You have had a lifetime of experience leading up to today. I met you had to be maybe 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, somewhere in that time frame. The first time so you were in a band called Within Chaos.
Yeah.
That you weren't the original vocalist. The first Within Chaos came to Tallahassee, and it was like a jump on. We had this local shows, a bunch of local bands, and then I heard, oh, this band from Texas got put on the bill, Within Chaos, and I was like, cool. This is back in MySpace days, and found the MySpace, pulled it up, and I said, oh my goodness. I like Virulent, you know, like the lead track from that first album came up, and I was like, these guys, I was excited. I was like, these guys are going to be really good. This is going to be something. And we had to play after Within Chaos. This was Falling at Will. Okay. This was like,
this is your first band.
This was like my first band. And we played after. It was so bad for us, but so eye-opening and amazing. And it was the original lineup. It was Travis, Jason Duguid, Jim, and I can't remember the original vocalist's name. Danny. Yeah, it was that original lineup, and they crushed it. You know, Jason was my hero. Jim was amazing. And then we hung out after the show, made friends. I made friends with Jim Taylor. Jim
makes friends with a fly on the wall. That dude is like the friendliest, nicest guy.
Oh,
dude.
That's so great to have someone like that in the band.
He was so inspiring when I met him that first night, because he was like, you know, I'm doing this band thing, but when I go back home, I'm a registered nurse. He was like, I've got a great career to fall back to, but I'm able to do this. And just like talking to him and how professional he was, both inside and outside of music, was just really, really inspiring. And then, you know, we made friends. We connected, and then I don't know what happened with Danny leaving and you coming back. But I remember the next show when you came back into town, I can't remember if my band played with you again or I just came because at that point we knew you guys. I know we brought you guys to play with us at a little venue called the Down Below, which Ash knows, that little pit underneath the seafood
it's not there anymore, right? Barnacle Bill's is gone.
Yeah, they tore it down. But some of the best times, and just to segue real quick, because I want to hear the story of how you came into the band. But first, when we played at the Beta Bar with you guys, and then the Down Below, I remember you're the one who told me, and I still tell this to people to this day. You're the one that said, I would rather mess up trying to do a backflip off the wall, and I think you had a broken leg. I think you had a broken leg because you had like tried to do a backflip off the wall at a venue, and you said your foot went into the drywall and you ended up breaking your foot. Or like, that's
great.
That's like my battle cry for stage performance, man. To this day, it's like,
I did not know that's where that comes from, because Dick says that shit all the time. It's like, I'd rather just the stage energy before the, you know, executing the note is more important.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather
the perfection out the window. I'm going to put on a show.
Put on a show.
That mentality came from JC.
That's great. Oh,
100%.
I remember the show I broke my foot on because that toe still bothers me to this day.
Damn.
I bet it does, man.
Dude, I broke my foot. We were in Boston We were playing a club in Boston, and yeah, I was wearing my Doc Martens, and I don't know. I just was like, I just got all crunk. I don't know if it was those big ass Boston guys. I was trying to show them what's up with this crazy Texas boy. And I remember going to the back wall next to the drums, and I tried to run up the wall and do a back flip off of it. And my foot, my Doc Marten got stuck going straight instead of the bottom, and the boot and my toe just caved, and it was like crack and broke all those toes right there. And then I still had to do the rest of the tour.
Oh, yeah, because you can't stop. Like, oh, we're gonna go home in Boston because I hurt my foot.
Nope. And it was, dude, I just remember like for 2 freaking months, dude, I basically about cried myself to sleep. So it was like, does anybody have any, I don't know, cocaine or liquor? Because my foot, I can't do this. But, you know, I mean, we did whatever we had to do. But that's so funny because, man, that foot still to this day, that knuckle's still bigger than the other one.
Oh man.
Wow.
Well, is that because you didn't actually take care of it? You just kept touring on? And
I mean, I did the best I could. I mean, I couldn't wear my Doc Marten, but I mean, unfortunately, the way that the universe or the stars or God or Buddha or whatever anybody believes, whatever made me or gave me this, I only know one way. So once that microphone goes hot and I step on the stage, any and everything else that I am, it all goes away and I become something, whatever that is, and it only knows how to do it one way, and that's balls to the wall. You know, like, I don't know if you remember, but I hang upside down in rafters and there's nothing holding me up. I mean, I'm just that guy that's willing to go that extra mile. So I just make do. I take the shoe off, I ice it, I stay off of it. But when it's showtime, you're like, that dude is not going to be able to perform. And then when the music started, I would feed off of it. And the next thing you know, I'm running laps again or still doing it. And then when the show's over, I'm like falling off the stage, dragging my foot behind me again, you know?
Dude, I totally believe that, man. I mean, the human body is absolutely crazy. When there's energy from people feeding you, you can almost do anything. I mean, you know, I don't know if you're into UFC at all, but, you know, you watch these fighters like, holy shit, how are they still standing? And it's like, well, if you have, you know, 15,000 people cheering for you, it's amazing what you can do.
Yeah.
The energy that can be summoned. I mean, they're literally giving you a physical energy in that room for your body and being to keep going.
And you know, here's the other thing about it too that I've noticed since I got sober. That feeding that you talk about and that energy, dude. When there's no drugs or alcohol in the way, it's almost like pure. Like it's It's better than any cocaine or drug that I did or any medicine that a doctor gave me. When I start feeding off of that, of people, that love, that admiration, they're jamming with you, one with you. It really is the most purest form of medication I've ever felt or seen in my life. It's that's what I think. That's why it's so amazing when you know, we connect to somebody that does that. Like I have my heroes, you know, and, you know, it almost like we all kind of transcend somewhere together, and it's so therapeutic, and it's just amazing that it can do that. And you're absolutely correct. The human body, what it can do in those moments, it's just, it's captivating.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I saw it tonight. I saw it tonight training. My son and I trained this jujitsu thing, and he rolled his ankle. We saw Acid Bath last weekend again.
I saw they run
and sold out show over in St. Pete. So funny. Hold on, I got to segue this story, and then I'll come back to the performance thing, because we get to St. Pete for this, you know, extreme metal show. It's the extreme. It's Acid Bath, right? And Weed Eater opened up, and another band opened up, and it's just intense metal. And we get into St. Pete. It's me and my son and my best friend Kurt, who you met. He was at the shows back in the day. It's Pride Parade in St. Pete. In downtown St. Pete, and like I'm like, it is like full bore, like gung ho Pride Parade. We're rolling in. I was like, oh snap! Like, okay, they're doing the Acid Bath show in the middle of the Pride Parade. This is interesting. But during that show, there were two injuries. Billy Wright, who, as you might know, he runs the mosh pit team down here in Florida. JC, this guy Billy, he is like the leader of the Cogs of War. Started the Cogs of War, and they're this mosh team. They're everywhere. All the big shows, these guys show up in like full force army, like decked out in dirt bike armor, you know, and they're in the mosh pits with the masks. They do the thing. You like, it's a whole like cultural thing that they do. It's really cool. Billy was there, and I didn't see him till the end of the show, and he got hurt where he was on the side of the mosh pit. A guy either was hit or dove and hit his knee straight on and popped it back the wrong way and then back out. And Billy told me, I saw him, he was like, I think I just destroyed my ACL. I don't know. He said, I took some mushrooms before the show, and and I think it's really bad. I was like, you should probably go get an MRI. Like, just to let you know, go get an MRI and chill out. My son also got injured. He is definitely not on mushrooms or anything, but he was in the mosh pit, and a similar thing, someone dove in and hit his ankle sideways.
Oh, damn.
And so I was like, man, he said, yeah, it kind of hurts, but I can walk on it. We went home. This was Saturday.
Was this one guy in the mosh pit doing this to everybody?
You know,
like diving at legs?
I didn't get in it. I stayed way on the back side up against the wall. I filmed a couple of things. I was like, I'm 41. You know, I'm into mosh pits, but it was just so many people, and this was a show I wanted to watch. I wasn't trying to lose my mind. I wanted to watch it. I wanted to catch every moment of them on stage, because that was super
That's
special.
the way I would have wanted to do it. Those guys, I mean,
Well, Kyron hurt his ankle. And the next day it was swollen so bad. It was like a knot, like a softball knot on the side of his ankle. And he's only 15, so he heals really fast. He was hobbling that next morning, and I told him, you know, in the mornings it's going to be inflamed, it's going to be swollen, it's going to hurt worse when you first wake up after you sleep all night, and then it's going to get better throughout the day if you gradually put weight on it. But tonight we went and trained. It was his first night back training since the injury. And today's Wednesday, Thursday. No, we trained last night too, but we trained tonight, second night back. And I asked him, I said, hey, how is the ankle? And he was like, oh, it's fine. Totally fine. Yeah, no problem. And I said, well, let me see it. I looked up and it's still swollen. And that's that like in the moment, the adrenaline goes and you get that energy, and an injury is, you know, I'm not advocating to train on injuries or anything, but
well, that's why.
When you get in that moment, these things like that energy happens to you. And what we're talking about right here with music, when you're on stage and you get in that specific mindset, and JC, like those shows that you fronted for Within Chaos that I got to see, and I haven't got to see you perform since then, but it was so impactful and so just that raw energy of I can't, like I said, I carry it to this day, like how well that it just punched. And what happened? I know that. How did you meet those guys? Were you from the same town? Is it Tyler, Texas that they were from? Like,
So it's with those guys, I was in Austin and I was in a band called Bangladesh. And we had actually played Tallahassee before I was in Within Chaos. I had already done some tours with my band from Austin, Bangladesh. And
oh, wow.
we were, it's weird that we named the band after some kind of Indonesian country. We were just so political. We were just like a metalcore, like it was kind of like Hatebreed from Texas, anyway.
I can dig it.
Yeah, we were a little bit less Pantera-ish and more Hatebreedish. And Shadows Fall that was kind of our thing.
Yeah.
Austin hardcore kind of was a heavy influence on us. So we were in Austin, and that band started like gaining a lot of traction, right? And there was a lot of politics. Austin, it's a very diverse city. It was kind of like some of the other hot spots in the country where there was just a lot going on. And at that time, I was just writing what I felt and just kind of going along with the flow, and it caught traction, and we ended up on the front page of the main Austin Statesman American, the main newspaper for Austin. We ended up on the front page, and they kicked the mayor and the chief of police and put them on page number 2.
Whoa.
Yes.
Whoa.
Bangladesh knocks off the mayor and the chief. City of Austin. What year would this have been, JC? This would have been like 2007?
Yeah, 2007. Give me 1 second. I'm in my office.
Sure.
I'm gonna step outside. Hold on.
Yeah, you're fine.
That looks like a fun place to be.
Sorry.
Yeah,
You're
fine.
We have karaoke going on at the bar tonight, and when he kicked it on, it was a little bit too tall. Is it okay if I come sit on the patio? Is it going to pull up?
Totally fine.
You're fine, man.
It ain't messing us up.
This is entertaining. Okay. I'm getting an experience of the whole place.
Yeah. I feel like I'm there with you.
Right? Come hang out. So we knocked off the mayor and the police chief on the Austin Statesman American, and we got a lot of notoriety. And then I ended up becoming really good friends with like the number one metal promoter. Her name was Tammy Moore from Austin, and she was booking like the Back Room and the Red Eye Fly, Emos, a bunch of badass like rock, hardcore metal-ish venues in Austin. And
I had always heard that Austin had a great scene.
Back in the day, pre-COVID, it was amazing. And then COVID, like a lot of places, it killed it. Now it's not the same, unfortunately. So I don't go down there and play anymore. But so she, I was getting all these gigs. We were packing out local venues and stuff. And then I became friends with her really good friend, Chuck Loesch, who was for 101.5 The X. That was the rock metal station there. And then my band ended up recording.
Eerily similar.
Yeah.
In Tallahassee, we had X 101.5. That's so crazy. That's like 101.5 The X versus X 101.5.
Yeah, they left Austin and went up there with y'all. No.
Maybe so.
Yeah, so... Chuck Loesch, they were spinning my music for my band Bangladesh because of all that traction we were getting, because I was kind of like saying things that a lot of people apparently weren't saying, or I don't know how I ended up becoming kind of like a part of some kind of weird movement that I wasn't even trying to do. I was just writing songs, but it had its context. And so we started doing that. Well, then Chuck Loesch and me and Tammy, we started a television show called Pure Metal Sickness out of Austin. And we basically were all Oak Access Channel producers, and we were interviewing bands and getting bands from out of town. Within Chaos came to play with my band. opening up, and we put them on my TV show with me, Tammy, and Chuck, and interviewed them. And I was the camera guy. I didn't interview them that time. Tammy did. And so, you know, they came back and played a couple more times with us, and it was just, you know, the shows were doing really good for a local club show.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this millionaire girlfriend at the time. And so, you know, she wanted me to do solo shit. So I was going to Vegas and doing acoustic shit at like the Palms Casino, Mandalay Bay House of Blues, acoustically. Well, while I was gone to Vegas, believe it or not, it sounds like something out of a storybook, which is so weird. They, within Chaos's management, and them contacted Chuck Loesch at the radio station and Tammy Moore and was like, hey, our singer just left and we just did our first national big tour and he left. He's gone. He jumped on a bus. And so for about 4 days, they were in limbo. And in that limbo, they were trying to talk Tammy and Chuck into getting me to leave Bangladesh and my job and the millionaire girlfriend and go on the road and join the band. Well, after about 4 or 5, maybe almost not quite a week, I kept saying no. They were stalled. They did like 2 more shows, and they were just having random singers come up at their concerts and just sing whatever the fuck they wanted to sing at their show over their music.
Crazy.
That's beautiful.
And I said no, and I cried about it. You know, it was and you know the DJ and the promoters were like, "You've got to do this. You've got to do it. You've got to do it." You know, and I had this millionaire girlfriend that didn't want me to do it, and so I just kept saying no. And 5 days later, I told my sister who I was working for. I told my girlfriend that had $1 million. Well, I'm going to grab my acoustic guitar and my backpack, and I'm flying out to Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm going to go on tour. And I quit my band, quit my job, and kind of half-assed dragged my millionaire girlfriend on for about 6 months until she realized I wasn't coming home. Then she threw all my shit out, and I stayed within Chaos and toured for a few more years.
Wow, man.
That's crazy that you flew to Raleigh. To Raleigh. I used to live right outside of Raleigh. Dave and I's first band was based out of there. So you flew to Raleigh, you went on tour. I'm trying to remember the timeline. Were you in the band when Chaos did Ozfest?
Yes, I was the guy. Yeah. We got off I was on the Mushroom Head tour, and we were actually the night before was the last night in Ohio. And we were driving back to Texas, and our manager at the time, Dimitri, he called us and said Sharon Osbourne's people called and wanted our band to play Ozfest. And so I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, no, she called. She wants you guys. I was like, okay. So we're all excited and everything. And in 2008, just kind of somehow got to play with those guys. It was trippy.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. That's fantastic.
That's incredible. It was. I remember you guys knew about it on one of the trips that you were in Tallahassee. I think so. An old bass player of mine, John Morgan, had a little apartment, and we threw this huge after party, and all you guys were there. And I remember it was Jason was still in the band at the time. And I don't know how much you want to talk about Jason, because there's some stuff later that happened with Jason that I honestly would love to know what happened. And I think I kind of know, but if you don't want to talk about it on here, it's totally fine. We can talk offline about it. But I do know that Jason told me, he said, we're playing Ozfest. We got Ozfest. He said, and I was like, that's incredible, man. Like we're having a beer. It's late at night. And he's like, that's it. He's like, we're doing Ozfest. That's it. That's the top. And I'm done after that. Like there's nowhere to go after that. I was like, you crazy, dude. Like that's like riding the wave up. And he's like, and I didn't think much of it. But then I know sometime after Ozfest that Jason departed from the band. He was out. And I know it wasn't a great out. It wasn't a great exit. And we don't have to go into details on it.
It wasn't. it wasn't good by any way, shape, or form. And you know what's crazy, without going into great detail, because you know I don't want to bash the guy, but you know we weren't done, and you know we tried to carry on for another year and a half with 2 other guitar players, but
Wolfgang, right? Wolfgang, Miles, and another guy, or was that later?
No, Wolfgang. I was never in Within Chaos. He came after.
Okay.
When I left Within Chaos, they ended up putting the band back together with Danny for a while, the original singer, and Travis, and brought another guy in to play bass because Jim and everybody left. But no, Jason, none of us have seen him since then. You know, he did a bunch of crazy stuff. Me and him, we got into a couple of like physical altercations, I'll say. Wasn't all between him and I. And when he did what he did, dude, he disappeared. Like nobody's heard from him ever again. Like,
and he wasn't. That's what he like. What he told me that night. It's like he wasn't lying. It's like he said. He literally said, "I'm done." You know, or I'm doing Ozfest, and then like he planned it. Like he just exited. And like I gotta be completely honest. Jason Duguid, who we're talking about, when I met him, it was this crazy guy, dreadlocks, septum ring. I'll never forget Shaggy Daniels, the sound guy at Floyd's in Tallahassee, super awesome individual. He was running sound. He was all like something about Jason just like stuck with people. And I'll never forget the first time we played with Within Chaos, I watched him set up, and he's the reason I'm the kind of guitar player that I am. And it's because he set up 2 5150s, 2 PV 5150s next to each other. And he had, for the first time, and I apologize for going off screen for this, but I gotta get something. He had the first time I ever saw one of these. Yeah. And I said, Jason, what is that? He said, it's an ABY. You set up 2 amplifiers, and this button is amp A or B. So when he set up those 2 PVs and he plugged in that Dean custom Flying V, it was chug, 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 chug on PV number 1, hit the button, chug, 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 chug on PV number 2, and then he hit A and B, and he chug, chug, chug on 2 amplifiers at the same time. And my young guitar playing brain just like had a fucking
you can
meltdown.
Do that.
I was like, shit. Are you fucking kidding me? What is this guy doing? 1 guitar player, 2 amp. I was like, whoa, blew my mind. And like it wasn't like a unique thing. I think like a bunch of people did that, but he was the one who showed me. And I was like, immediately I went and bought a PV50 150. I A-B'd it with another amp, and then I tossed that amp, got a different amp. And to this day, like still the only amp that has my name on it is a fucking 5150. But no matter how much heat I make, can't burn it down, burn it down, burn it down, burn it, bury it deep in your sand. Your emotions drive you insane. Twisting and tearing the threads, entangle the frame, control and manipulate the molecules. I won't fight, just fucking take it, do whatever, just don't break. Because of
And I'll tell you this, with him and you know, with just all the guitar players that were kind of around in that little group of all of them, because Jason was just one of a crew between the Dallas and Austin, San Antonio clique that was one of the badasses, you know what I mean? Because Jason Jason was an incredible guitar player. I wouldn't have joined the band if he wasn't. I respected the craft. You know, the what happened was unfortunate, but just from the musical side of it and the way that he was applying it live, there was an energy that I was like attracted to. And when him and I were together in that moment, you know, it was almost like having sex with a woman, you know, or we were up on stage, like our souls were like jumping and flying and flipping together and shit, you know, and it was like this energy release that was over the top captivating. But also at the same time, if those energies, whether it be mine, be his, or whatever we're affected by, that same energy, if you use it for something else, it can get in the way. And that's what ended up happening with all of us, you know. But man, during those time periods, what we were doing, I mean, I felt it too. I was like, I couldn't even believe it was us. Sometimes I'm like, is this really who the fuck we are? This is weird. I'm just fucking high, dude.
It's like that toxic relationship. Like what I feel like you're describing, it's that toxic relationship. You know it's bad for you, but when it's good, it's so good. It's so good. But the personalities, it sounds like the personalities just clashed outside of the music in such a way.
Yeah, we were just flying, dude, and we were all kind of going by the seat of our pants and shit. So, you know, I was young. You know, I mean, dude, I was in my like late 20s, early 30s at the time. And, you know, so I was just like a kid in a candy store. Everybody was just giving us whatever we wanted, you know, and, you know, that's why, you know, I don't hold any grudges against anybody. There's total forgiveness and transparency and nothing but love, because I appreciate those times, because it helped mold me and make me, because again, as you were influenced, dude, I love the guitar tone that he was putting out from all of the bands I was in, because they were all like down here in Texas, they were all doing something because of Dimebag, you know, like the way that Dime kind of opened up the world for guitarists here. I mean, I had guys that not all of them tried to sound like Dimebag, but they were influenced by the work that he was. And what ended up happening is we ended up with like some of the baddest guitar players around the country from Texas. And they were all doing something cool. It's just, you know, unfortunately, the fun comes with the price sometimes when everyone's like, hey, you're going to be a rock star. Let me give you this to stick up your nose hole and you can drink as much as you want. And you're like, eventually it takes its toll. And I think with a lot of people, that happens. And unfortunately, me personally, I got caught up in it too. Not even meaning to, you know? But I do appreciate those guys and everything that I did with them. And it's cool to see that it made a mark. And I appreciate the kind words, man, that we made an impact to where here we are all these years later and we're having a conversation, you know?
Yeah, man. And Jay, you're a survivor. You are a literal survivor. I've been following you on social media since back in the day. And I know you've had journeys, you've battled sickness, you've battled addiction, you're on top, you've came out on top, you're still kicking, you're doing your thing. You were doing Stone Temple Pilots tribute stuff for a little while, right? Like, just tell me and Ash like how everything is rolling for you right now.
You know, when I didn't do the record deal with, I think it was Victory Records.
Within Chaos was signed to Koch.
We were on Koch. And then when I left Within Chaos and was going to join this other band, before I went into the cover band and tribute world, they were on the verge of getting a record deal as well. And so when that fell through, I was playing at the Curtain Club and some buddies of mine said, hey man, we got this STP tribute. And I was like, at the moment, I was just kind of like done with the original thing, you know, it left a bad taste in my mouth. And so I just wanted to distance myself from it and joined the STP tribute. I'm still in it. We play out of state. I've done some casinos and, you know, I do things with it and make a little bit cash, but after 8 years, I'm kind of putting it on the back burner. Unless I get a good gig or opportunity, I'm not really pushing it. You know, I'm also in a Billy Idol tribute. I've been in that for 6 years. All right, you know, doing all that.
Nice, yeah.
And then
That's great.
I'm doing the 90s 2000 like rock metal alternative cover band thing, you know, and that's kind of how it happened. But now I'm going back to original music. I just joined an original band and working with Virgin Records.
Awesome, man.
It's
That is so great.
kind of coming back around full circle. But you know, all these years, I've done a lot of big stuff and some fun stuff. I've played House of Blues. I did an MTV style show with my STP tribute where we kind of recreated what they did back in the day. I've gotten to play at some casinos. I mean, I've done some cool, fun stuff. But you know, I think it's just time.
Yeah.
It's for me to go to lay that. It was almost like that was a stepping stone to kill 8-9 years while I tried to get my shit back together and recover from the cancer. You know, I had that. I'm 7 years cancer free this month.
That's
and
fantastic, man.
you know, and that's a blessing. And then getting sober a year and a half ago and quitting smoking and drugs and just that happening. And then the heart condition, you know, I take heart medicine, and I basically all those years almost killed my heart. And now I lost 53 pounds. I'm on that heart medication, but they cut it down. I went from 20% heart pump function, and I had a test 2 weeks ago. My heart's working 50% now. And
Beautiful.
I think, yeah, you know, where Scott Weiland, he died from it. You know, a lot of my heroes and people that, you know, a lot of us have looked up to, you know, that's been a real big thing in our industry. Any hospitality, bars, pool halls, bowling alleys, to live music venues, video guys, you know, what it comes with the territory, you know. And so for me to be where I'm at and to still be in the business, but, you know, it, for me, part of continuing to do the STP stuff, as long as I've done it, it's because I'm kind of feel like I'm carrying on where Scott didn't. You know, it killed Scott Weiland, and you know, I am playing his music and their music as a legacy, and I get to kind of, during this interim time of getting my life back together, I've been able to kind of honor them. And you know, guys like Chester Bennington from Linkin Park, you know, and Chris Cornell, those guys, it killed all them. And I'm doing it day to day, one step at a time, and getting a chance. And then it so now that I've been doing that tribute band and cover band thing so long, now I'm about to lay a lot of them to rest and got myself healthy to where I can go again for a second round. At 49 years old, I'm getting a second chance to go back and play the game. And
that's amazing.
And I doing the
smarter, wiser, experience, coming back in round two for real, like and sober to remember it this time, whether it's the best, good or bad, to be sober. And the other thing, guys, just the thankfulness. Like I'm just so incredibly thankful that I'm alive, and that, you know, because everybody told me, oh, you're too old. And then all these people are like, no, you're not. You look like 15, 20 years younger, you know, now. And, and you know, to have this opportunity at 49 years old I'm just so incredibly thankful. Like, to my friends, my family, guys like yourself that even reached out, just the smallest, weirdest things. I'm like the most grateful, thankful person. And, you know,
I think that's a sign of, in my opinion, that's the greatest amount of wisdom that somebody can kind of gain over the course of their life, is the ability to acknowledge what they can be grateful for in the moment, you know, and be okay with things even if they're fleeting. You know, like you said, whether it's good or bad, like there's no doubt that the journey ahead of you will have good, cool experiences in it. Does it have to be good 24/7? No, but I bet the amount that you'll enjoy it and savor it and experience it as a sober person, a wiser person, that imprint that will have on your being, your soul, and everything through that experience, that's the treasure chest along the way. So I'm so happy for you, man. I'm just getting to know you and everything, but I can, your journey, your adventure, your story and everything, this is a massive opportunity. And you don't necessarily, I don't know how it's come about that you're back in this opportunity exactly. I'd like to know, but I do know this, no matter what, you don't always just get to decide when an opportunity like this presents itself again, even with effort, and so, look, I feel like I always tell, even with my clients when we're videoing things, things change every time we go for a shoot. We have a master plan, we get out there, you got to adapt, and I just say, hey, this is how Destiny's molding it, and we're going to see what it helps us create, and so destiny is happening to you now, man. You got to see what it's creating with you, and not just the music, but the experience of the life that you go on to live through this years on this journey.
The other beautiful part, and I think what that last thing you just said about life, it's like doing this all for the first time again, like how to love, how to walk. I mean, I was bumping into walls and shit. People are like, dude, when you get sober, they're like, there is a real legitimate thing that happens to people. Your equilibrium, your body's changing. And I was like, I'm sober and I'm bumping into walls. So anyway, I feel like I'm a toddler. I'm bumping into walls every day and learning how to get back up and walk and how to feel things for the first time in 30 something, since I was like 15 when I started doing all that shit. And I get to feel those relationships with people and value it. And now for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm not some selfish asshole. I'm actually like, I let people know how I know I'm nothing without them, and that I wouldn't be here without them, and the love and the support when I didn't deserve it. And the fact that there's a core group of people that gave it to me anyway and that are still here. To have that now, you're right, is the biggest treasure, because I'm getting to feel it, I'm getting to see it. And now, it's almost like the universe or God or whatever is going, hey, we're going to give you another chance because you put the work in and it was real and you meant it. And, this is what humility and thankfulness and grace looks like, and forgiveness. But it started with me forgiving myself, because, I couldn't be loving and I couldn't do the things I want to do, because if you don't love yourself, you're kind of shitty to other people. And now that I'm not doing that, man, the doors that it's doing is really opening it up, where I'm not asking for this stuff to happen. I mean, yeah, it's who doesn't pray or want or speak good things? It's all just happening, but it's because of the work. When I finally stopped what I was doing and realized I was wrong and there was a better way and others were trying to help me, when I accepted it, man, it changed everything. And so I give the glory to the love of all the people around me, and the, because I kind of feel like they instilled in me to give me that second chance, so it's just when you talk about the treasure, and I'll probably never forget that from you, Ash, saying that's the true treasure chest. It absolutely is. These other things are little tokens and gifts, and I'm so thankful, but the experience and things in the life and those relationships, that is truly, I could die tomorrow and I feel love in my life and I know that people love me, but it's because I loved myself and started loving them. They're like, okay, now we can do something,
Yeah. Beautiful, man.
That is it, man. You can't, no one can properly love anyone else unless you love yourself. You can't. It starts in here, and then it grows out. And what you're experiencing right now is because you've went through that and you've accepted who you are and made the change. These good things that are happening to you are a direct result of that in itself. And I talked to a lot of people in this group. My friend Brett put it a certain way to me one time in a conversation and said that we as musicians, the kind of people we are the most vulnerable to this type of thing, to the addictions, to the susceptibility of the vices, because we are who we are, because our souls are open. We wear ourselves open and like an exposed nerve to these types of stimulants, because it's something that we're tuned to, and we're vulnerable to that. And we have, like, I always tell, like, your story is something that I feel that young people coming into this and who want to do this as a profession, who want, like, my son's 15 years old and he wants to go to college for music. He wants to make a career out of music. And I said, okay, there's going to be challenges, and you're not going to understand that they're challenges until they hurt you. And it's like that, your story of overcoming this and coming out the other side on top of the game is something that I feel that is absolutely necessary for people to understand, who are young, who don't know yet. You know, the wisdom that you've gained through this journey you've been on is something that isn't easily acquired and even understood. And you, like, most people don't come out the other side to understand what they've been through. You have, and that is a gift, my friend, that you've given yourself.
You know, go ahead, buddy.
Go ahead.
I was just going to reference really quick. 2 weeks ago, we had on Michael Sanchez, the guitar player for Acid Bath. We had him on the show, and he was talking about he went through addiction issues for a long period. He didn't remember a lot of the experience of Acid Bath. They're back together, reunited, playing shows again, and it's the same sentiment. The value that he has in his voice and how appreciative he is and grateful he is that they're getting to do this again, and the fan base that's there for them now, and just the acknowledgement. He feels like, I mean, the way he expressed it was that he was really, really, embracing it full throttle at this time in his life in a really unique, organic way now, and it's just, he's so thankful. And so it's interesting. I had no idea we were going to delve into this story, because I'm just getting to know who you are and your story, man, and so that's so great. I mean, I love hearing this again, this other side of it. It's so beautiful. And, one thing I would also I think the most selfish, it sounds like the most giving thing, but it can also be the most, along the way, as you have opportunities, one of the cool things about having opportunities is that the people around you, it gives you potentially the ability to give people around you opportunities, like help, be the helping hand. And as much as that sounds like it's like a completely selfless act, it can also become almost the most selfish thing, because that experience of helping people is one of the most, it is like the most rewarding thing that you can do as a person. Right, is to see that you've helped create a little bit of light in somebody that's pursuing that extra little. Think about what happened with Dick and what he saw with your guys' performance, and how it changed the trajectory of his performances for the rest of his life. He is still doing music, that shit. You have imprints like that at all times, and it's just like being sensitive to that too is just such an amazing thing. What an area of opportunity to keep expanding and growing and spreading that love. So you got some great stuff ahead of you. This is exciting for you. I'm excited.
I'm excited, and I'm excited to be here because, I think that the biggest thing was, for a long time, you don't feel worthy of love or a good life. You can't forgive yourself. I can't tell you how many drunken nights I had my 9mm stuck in my mouth and shit, and at one drunken pool, and I would have ended it over something stupid, and to not have that looming over me anymore, and to make it out alive, not even from just the alcoholism, just making it alive from myself, because I kept hurting myself and cutting and doing weird shit, and to not have that anymore. It's such a positive thing. And I tell people a lot, I got sober for me and for my family. And I lost all that 53 pounds of weight when my heart was failing and all this stuff, whatever. And, people just kept asking me about it. And I was like, look, I'm new to this. Don't put me on no pedestal, because I'm still bumping the walls and shit. I'm still scraping my hips and falling down and having to get up daily with this. But what I've seen happen is if somebody asks me, I tell them, and I just tell them the truth. Like, this is how I did it. I don't think you should do it the way I did because I could have died. My heart doctor was like, you should have been in the hospital on detox medicine. I was like, nope, I had to go through it or I would have went back. So that pain and that near-death thing, I knew me. I had to go through that, or I would be tempted anytime things fell, I would go back to it. So I don't ever want to push that envelope again. And I always tell people, go to the doctor, get professional help. Don't do it what I did because, the heart medication I'm on, I was at like 95% massive heart attack, but I laid there and suffered for 10 days detoxing for my own personal journey. So I told my universe, if you let me live and people want to know about it, when you think the time's right, I'll talk about it, but I don't want to be a preacher, man. I'm not out here to condemn people and tell them what they should and shouldn't do. But what's happened, people want to know. And so I end up telling my story a lot more than I thought, but it's more like a face-to-face. I post some of my successes online periodically, haven't as much right now because I'm living right now and trying to just absorb things that are going on. But, it's really cool to see that, I'm a general manager of a bar, man. I'm the booking talent guy. I'm the front house. I see drunk people every night. I see all kinds of shit.
And that is wild. That is wild.
And they're like, I said, well, wouldn't you want the most sober guy in the room watching out for you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, totally. It's a benefit.
My friends or women that I've dated or whatever I've done, whatever band members, I don't tell anybody. I'm like, if you ain't got a heart condition and you don't have a drinking problem like me, 100 shots, 170 shots a week's a lot. So if you're not doing that and you can manage and do your thing, cool. But I'm kind of like there for people that are extreme and they ask, I tell them, and that's kind of where I've been used. And so, it's kind of one of those things to where if people want to know about it, I tell them, but I don't go to AA meetings. I'm not like, hey, my name's Jay Childress. I'm a drug addict and alcoholic. That's not my vibe. I'm more of a face-to-face. If you want to know, I'll tell you, but don't ask me.
What's interesting though. Absolutely. No, it's great. And it's great that you're sharing it and you're so open about it. But what I would point out, something that you are doing is that Dick seemed to know a decent amount of what was going on. He's following your story a bit. You're somewhat public about it. You're open about it. Every time you do that, what you're really doing is you're creating accountability for yourself a bit. It's not, you're not an AA, but you are creating, something where you have people behind you that think that that's amazing and supporting you along the way because you're sharing the story. And so it gives you that accountability. So I think, but you're doing it in a beautiful way that it's obvious that it's not like, I understand. I have friends and, they flat out say that, look, it's never going to go away completely. I've seen people relapse, really late in life. So it's something that has to constantly be, acknowledged and worked on. And that's okay. It's the first step is acknowledging that, not feeling like you got something licked. And so I think you're doing a lot of things right. I think that, destiny seems to be kicking in full gear for you to have amazing opportunities ahead. And there's going to be hurdles. It ain't going to be effortless. It's not all but that's, you can have, I don't know. One of the things that I figured out with, I've had a lot more experiences over the last, 15 years or so in particular. And I was just talking about in a podcast or two ago that is like, if I had to do one day of what I do now 15 years ago, there's no way I could have fucking done it. It wouldn't have been the beginning of possible. I wouldn't have known.
As a 20-year-old kid, I wouldn't have known. If you had to live one day of your life that you live today with the responsibility, the pressure, if you had to do one day today when you were 20, you'd have caved. I would have caved with what I do. Are you kidding me? I mean, absolutely. Any of us. And that's a testament of the gradual. I mean, growing up is growing up, and becoming a person is becoming, a responsible person is a slow burn. And those like Ash, what you said, it's not all going to be rainbows and cakewalks, right? Like a sober mind, a strong mind and a disciplined mind is going to understand that those bad days, I forget the guy's name, famous singer. He said, you take those bad days down and you choke them down to nothing. And
Is this a jiu-jitsu guy that says
no,
this?
No. It's a man.
Jake's into jiu-jitsu. I think they're teaching that at the school.
Oh, John Gilbert. John Gilbert's going to kill me for not remembering his name. He was an actor. He was in the movie with the rabbit. But a strong, disciplined mind understands that the bad days are more meaningful in the long run because of how they affect you and because of what you learn from them. So the bad days, you learn more from a loss than you do from a win anytime. When you walk away defeated with everything to think about on where you are and where you want to be and where you need to be is more important than standing on the podium, than standing in your first place prize with a gold medal or a checkered flag or, the Super Bowl trophy, whatever it is. Like, that is not the goal. The goal is to take the worst day and make it be the best thing that ever happened to you.
Yeah.
That's the mantra that I try to live by. And I'm not perfect either. I've been through years of my own nonsense back, and thankfully it's been a long, long time ago. But it's those days that mean the most because they make the good days worth being good and worth remembering, right? Like,
yeah, that was the thing when I prayed and was like, give me another chance. I really, all those years of cutting and wanting to die, I realized when everything started getting real black and I was actually really dying, I was like, okay, maybe I don't want to do that. And, when I meant it, I said, I'll be real. I'm going to be realistic about this. That's why I wasn't trying to be like coming out gung ho, trying to, save the world. I was just trying to save myself. And I told my little prayer partner, whatever, that I'd be realistic about it and not go into this with rose-colored glasses. I knew it was going to be hard. I knew failed relationships. I knew the trials and tribulations were coming. And how could it not? Because I stacked up 40 fucking years of a bunch of problems and emotional hurt and carrying baggage. So I knew that I was going to have to face and feel all that. And people were going to come out of the woodworks, people I hurt, enemies. I was going to have to face all that shit that I did and stand there and take it like a man and own it. And so I this whole time with all this stuff going on, I really, really I knew that it was going to get rough. And I accepted that, and I've laid myself at the mercy of people to forgive me for what I've done, and ask for forgiveness. And there's relationships I can't, there's always jobs, there's always drama and stuff. But I had to accept that there's just things I cannot change, and it doesn't matter. I can beat my head to a freaking pulp, and if it's you sometimes just can't take a square and push it through a cylinder. You just can't. And it doesn't matter how much you try to push that square through that round hole. It's just not going to go. Yeah. And, and that's when you have to accept it and go find a place where it fits. And that doesn't mean that every time it's the end of the world and you need to fall off and just, self-destruct yourself, which I was the best at sabotaging myself. And because I went into everything, and it doesn't matter whether it's personal, music, with that realistic goal, it really has given me a perspective to where I can do exactly what you're talking about. Like, basically knowing that shit's going to get hard, but because you knew that going into it, when you made the decision, it makes the tough easier than the tough used to be.
Yeah. Well put. Well put. No, that's exactly it. Yep. Yeah. I mean, the way that you'll be able to roll with it and acknowledge what it is for what it is. There is something about having hard times and acknowledging that it is just a moment. The more years that you're alive, the more things that you go through, to understand that it's a passing tone is a huge value and really can simmer down the whole experience, bring it down a notch. And then, you know, the greatest thing is when you meet, you know, a tribulation and you just impress yourself with how well you handled it, that you didn't let it get to you on the level that you know it would have like 10 years ago or something. I mean, when that happens, I'm like,
and you're right. My God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
You hit a point where, you know, when you're young, it's the end of the world, and it's like it's never ending. You think it's gonna be this way forever. I remember being a teenager and like heartbreak. First time I experienced heartbreak. Oh, I festered in that heartbreak for like a year. You know, like it was terrible.
Yeah.
You know, just awful. And then, you know, 10 years later, it's like, well, you know, it happens. You know, it's like that first one sucks. And when you're young, it's harder, and it just gets easier with the more wisdom you gain.
You know, it does. I just went through a really bad heartbreak. I fell in love for the first time in my life, almost at about a year sober, and broke the cardinal rule. You're not supposed to do that your first year of sobriety. I was right at it. Fell in love with the friend acquaintance, but I've known her for 3 years, and fell in love for the first time since my high school sweetheart. And, you know, it deteriorated within, you know, three and a half months. And it was really difficult. And the way it all went down, it really hurt me. And it was the first time in my life that I ever felt that kind of pain. Like, I don't know, because I was in love with somebody that didn't love me back. And it was just a bad breakup the way it went down. And so with that being said, how that happened, hey, what's up, dude? Hey, good to see you, Bob and Ray. How that all went down, you know, it really affected me really hard. But because it only took me from January to March to finally accept it, and because I was sober, even though I thought about going back, it's like, you know, fuck this, I'm just going to go drink and whatever. I fell on the fact of the 10 days that I detoxed, fell on the fact that I was sober. And instead of dragging it on for a year and a half, 2.5 years, kind of what you were saying, my brother, here I am, you know, what is it? April, May, June, July. And I don't even give a shit anymore. It's like,
that's good.
You know?
Yeah.
And not even in a bad way, right? It's like you don't give a shit because you understand the situation, you respect the emotions of the other person, and you have to accept it for what it is. And that's the beautiful part.
It's one of those things where there's no phone calls. We blocked each other. It's like we have mutual friends. We don't talk to our mutual friends about each other. It was like, you know, I was able to accept that no matter what I did, that square was not going to fit through that circle cylinder, which that circle cylinder was love. No matter what I did, I couldn't make this woman love me. But it didn't. It hurt. And I was close, but I actually held strong and realized that I couldn't change it. And, you know, I'm still here sober. I'm still here with my music and my life and my friends and family. But when I was younger, I would have destroyed my whole life over it.
Right. Absolutely. Of course.
Just to what you're saying, you know, Dick, about, you know, when we're younger, you know, us getting older, you know, it's weird how, you know, we grow like that when we put ourselves in a situation to allow ourselves to grow, you know?
Absolutely.
And I'm proud of you, man. You are seriously very, very happy that you've done what you've done. I'm proud of you for what you're doing and continue to do. And it's not like, and you're right, you know, it's not like you're not at the top of the mountain. You're still on the climb. It never stops. It never goes away. Every day is another challenge. Every day is another set of opportunities, not problems. Never problems. It's always an opportunity, because it's an opportunity to have success. And if you don't,
and I would say, to close it out too, it's like, I mean, dude, I still hit walls, you know, at least a couple of times a year where I feel like, have I finally reached the point where this shit stops working. Like, you know, in other words, like, right, like it's, I don't know if I can pull off everything that needs to happen, because it is a new mountain that has been achieved, and it's bigger than ever, and it's all crumbling down. Is this going to work? And,
is this going to be my
you
failure?
know, and then you come out of it, and then before you know it, a year later, you're on an even taller mountain. You've achieved these other things, and now you got to deal with, and it's like, that's the whole fucking point.
Yeah.
If you can embrace that, that's the journey, that's the adventure, is climbing mountains.
Yeah.
Then it can be a fun experience.
Nothing, nothing but a hill for a climber.
Yeah.
Dude, I love it, man. I'm honest. I go to concerts now. I've been to I could name off. I went to Louder Than Life Festival at the end of last year, September, in Louisville, Kentucky. I've went and seen Creed and Limp Bizkit and Slipknot, and just it just goes on and on. And man, I'm enjoying music and concerts now more than ever. I lean on my heroes, and it's kind of really cool to see that circle, that cycle, you know, and you know, it energizes me, because, you know, to climb mountains, you got to be physically fit to climb a mountain, and that's emotionally, spiritually, business, all of it. And so you're absolutely correct. Again, you know, that's a part of the fun and the adventure, is like you get to climb another mountain and see if you can get to the top of it, you know?
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely, man.
And when you get there, you look over and say, damn, that mountain's even taller.
I'm going to go climb it. Bring on the challenge. Dude, what a great conversation. I had no idea we were going to go down the pathway that we did. I love it. I'm really glad that we got to talk about all that stuff, man. And thanks for being so open and sharing all that. I know people find it a value. I find it a value, man. You know, I did lose a friend this last year. You know, he took his life, and he kind of, you know, was a, you know, you were going in that potential trajectory. You said that you had, you know, a gun at one point, and it's like, that's how he took his life. And these things happen. And it really is beautiful to me to see that you were holding strong. You went through a tough thing just a few months ago. You're holding it together, man. You got cool stuff coming up. This won't have been the last time that you come on this show, as long as you want to come on again. I want to get an update, you know, and you know, whether it's half a year from now or a year from now, whatever. Let's find out what's going on with you, dude.
About this Virgin Records stuff.
I'm going to keep you guys updated with me joining Empires, and taking over the reins of that ship with this Virgin Records kind of deal. See where that all goes. I'll make sure to hit you guys up and keep y'all updated. And I just want to say thank you both for, you know, y'all were booked out. Let me come in and share my story. You know, it's all just everything I'm saying is out of love, and it to still be a part of the music business and do it a different way is a blessing. And I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your schedule to let me be here with you tonight.
Absolutely, brother, man. It was great, dude.
Anytime. Thanks so much, JC. It's been awesome catching up with you. Glad you're still doing what you're doing, and just know that you were an impact.
Thank you, man.
More than you may have known, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome, and we'll be in touch.
Cool, man. Yeah. Take care. And guys, we'll catch you on the next MuseCast. We'll see you on the other side. Peace.
Peace. Rock and roll.
Later.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying the podcast, that's awesome. We really appreciate it. But you should check out our full actual web series if you have not seen it yet, because this is where we put all the effort into a production. It's a sci-fi comedy, but we're a rock band, and so we put music videos inside of each episode.
No views but your own easy escape. Don't pay no mind to what they say. They're in their own world anyway.
Each episode features a new singer on each song that we unveil within the episode.
And will they
all unique singers from the Southeast region, most of them from right here in the Florida Panhandle, and all independent, unsigned, unknown artists until now.
No matter how hard I try, turn it down.
premise of the show, Ash and I are a couple of bonehead guitar players living off the grid, trying to save humanity, which has been brainwashed from an artificial intelligence stripping us away of our creativity and our creative spirit.
We developed a mind travel machine to go into people's brains and collaborate with their inner muses, bringing back music that is completely organic from human muse collaborations. Enter Cue the Muses. You know what, we're kind of getting sidetracked, man. There's only so much time for frequency absorption. We need to hop on it. Can you fire up the cadence tubes?
Yeah.
And I'll go ahead and get my shoes tied.
Okay. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and click the little bell. Tell YouTube that we matter, that you like us, and that you want to see more of us, because that's the only way that happens. Stay tuned.